minimum age limit here in the UK to be a birth partner? This was something that was asked by a fellow follower who wants to support her mum during labour and birth. And this is something that really sits personally close to my heart because age 14, I was desperate to be with my mum during labour and birth. I really wanted to be there. I wanted to be part of her labour and birth experience. She didn't want me there. She had concerns about me being there. We weren't in a good place relationship-wise anyway, so in hindsight, it was probably the best option for her because she needed her oxytocin to flow and to feel comfortable and safe and secure. But I remember wanting to be there at the time. It's something that really sparked my interest in midwifery, is her being pregnant with my youngest brother. And now I'm a midwife, I am actually really grateful that I wasn't there at the time. Knowing everything that I know about childbirth now, I'm actually kind of glad that I wasn't there in hindsight. So officially, there's no sort of national standard or guideline as to how old you need to be a birth partner at all. It is worth, though, having a really good conversation with a community midwife if having a child there, having a child present is something that you really want. As a midwife who's attended home births where the children have been in the background, sometimes it's been really useful, particularly around that transition phase where maybe sort of the contractions space out, things slow down, and the woman just needs a little boost of oxytocin. Sometimes a cuddle with your baby, with your child, it just brings back that oxytocin. It can be really helpful and really useful. But it is having awareness of the other side of things. So if on the other hand you think actually I'm the default parent, I'm going to be one who is running around after my children, doing the meals, whatever it is, then actually you really need to be as comfortable as you possibly can during labour and birth, where you are going to feel comfortable enough to poo in front of them, to be completely naked, for example, to just completely let go and feel comfortable about the noises that you are making in front of them as well. So it's always having that awareness and hopefully having a good supportive partner who can pick up the default parenting side of things too. This is where I pick up the sort of slightly more negative Nelly, just things to consider more than anything. Remember, this is your birth, your journey, and really important to be supported wherever you can be. And this is where individualised birth planning and care really comes into its own. But just to put the flip side, just to understand the negatives or the downside slightly, if there were to be a complication of some sort, how would your child feel in seeing that, in being present, in being part of that? And I say this as a midwife who have had people come in and book their pregnancies and be like, I am terrified of childbirth, real tocophobia, because they were a birth partner at their mum, their sister, their aunt, their friend, whoever it was, they've been a birth partner at some point within their life. Whether they were a child or whether they were an adult, they've been part and they have witnessed some sort of traumatic birth experience, and sometimes in the lowest risk of pregnancies. Low risk does not mean no risk, it just means that you're at a lower chance of those complications happening. It's worth remembering that if there are any complications, when you are there with someone that you really truly love, adore, have that huge emotional connection to, if something were to happen to them where you are really concerned and really worried about what's going on with them and what's happening at that moment in time, how are you going to feel lifelong? Because there is often sort of treatment and therapies and everything else for the person who has gone through birth. We know from the data from the history there is less for birthing partners themselves, and there is next to no evidence on support that's available for children either who are supporting their parents through labour and birth. And when birth goes well, it goes phenomenally well, and it's the most magical and amazing thing to witness and to be part of. And honestly, from looking after my friends and family, it's been the hardest thing that I've ever done as a midwife because of that emotional connection to them. It's been the most rewarding in hindsight, but at the time it's really difficult to disconnect your emotional ties where you are desperate to make things better, desperate to make things improve, where they don't go through pain or discomfort, whatever it is. But at the same time, it's that objectivity as well. And so if you are considering having your children at birth, it is worth considering how are you going to feel being in front of them. Have you got any sort of antenatal birth preparation classes that you can go along to together where it covers sort of spontaneous vaginal birth, but also any unplanned scenarios, any unplanned situations, any emergencies that may or may not pop up, so that people are more prepared for that. What's the age of your children? What's your connection like? What's your relationship like? And then have a conversation with your midwife. Firstly, is there any guidance within the trust about the age? There probably isn't. If there is, having that conversation early and asking for an individualised care plan. Where are you planning on having your baby? At home, at least it gives them the space to be able to go off to another room if things get overwhelming or it becomes too hard. In a hospital, there is different infrastructure where some units don't have any sort of parenting spaces where they can go into to take a breather and a break. For adults, they can just walk out at 3 o'clock in the morning and wander the hospital corridors. But with a 14, 15 or 16-year-old, for example, it's a very different story from a safety perspective. And are you going to feel comfortable with your 14, 15, 16-year-old becoming quite overwhelmed with the space, the environment, the sounds, the noises, everything else that happens? Are you going to feel comfortable with them just walking out of the unit and then coming back at a later stage? Everything is really unique just to think about. So with your birth, it's your baby and it's deciding what is right for you. And ultimately, is your child going to be a help and something that's going to boost your oxytocin and support you? Or alternatively, could it cause any problems? And is there anything around that? Is there any mitigations that you can make? Any sort of plans that you can make if things become overwhelming or overstimulating or too much? Is there anything else that you can have a second birth partner or someone there to support them as well as you? Every trust has to do individualised care planning, so it is possible, and I've certainly had children at births before, but it is being aware it's an individual decision to make, and that is in combination with your community midwife who can then organise and arrange what is there, those plans, and think about all of the if, buts and maybes as well.